We'll do the networking after the event with the beers and the wine. All right, let's get to our seats.
Network. I thought it was a network.
Who's doing good in this economy? Anybody? Raise your hand.
Me.
That's it?
Right here.
Who's taking a profit? Look at the guys who's taking a profit. Raise your hand. You want to buy a drink to those people and talk to them. Yeah, I'm serious. Find out what they're doing right. But we're going to share with you somebody who did 9 deals profitably last month with 10 days off in the month and the turkey holiday. Who would like to do 9 deals in the last month? Who would like that? Would that be nice? Yeah, so we're going to show you step by step what kind of marketing you need to do. We're going to show you step by step how to market it to make a profit. And we'll show you step by step the case. Would you guys like that? Yeah, exactly. And what's cool about it is a local person. I think it's the first time he's speaking at TBREIA. And let me tell you a little bit how I met Corey. We were getting complaints from back in the good old days. We used to have like 200-300 people, show up, maybe packed here. When everybody wanted to be a real estate, you could buy a house and do a horrible job buying it. It would go up, and a bigger idiot would come and buy it, and you would make 50 grand. And those days are gone. And back then we had a bigger membership, but people didn't want to come here from East Hillsboro to the meeting. So people kept asking, say, hey, let's start a group in East Hillsboro. And we were looking for an area, so we said, okay, let's do it in Brandon. So I go and I put it on the website, and I didn't promote it, I just thought people would show up. So I drove over there for the meeting, and only one person showed up for the subgroup meeting. And it was Corey, right there. So then I promoted it. After all that complaining and people didn't want to drive, I promoted it, and then 2 people showed up, and one of them was Corey. But now it's a vibrant, fantastic group. But one thing that comes out of that story is, if you face with frustration or insuccess, the tire kickers give up and complain, and the winners find a way and succeed. And if you remember that, you will always make it. And this is an example of Corey. For the past 3 years, he's been doing 2 to 3 deals a month. And in the month of November, with taking 10 days off and a holiday, he's managed to do 9 deals. Okay, so you can't say this is 3 years ago when it was a great market. We're talking in this market. And he is down to earth. You're going to see a very interactive. I suspect this is going to be. I'm willing to make this prediction without ever seeing his presentation, just from knowing him for years. I suspect it's going to be the best presentation ever. It's going to give you the most amount of value. And one of the best presentations ever also was Mark Wilson's. Where's Mark? Mark did a presentation, and 2 people came up to me a few months later and said, one lady spent over $80,000 in coaching and all of this stuff. Actually, the last coaching she went to was $25,000. It was like $80,000 total. For 2 years, they never bought a house, and listened to Mark and bought a house. Do the same thing tonight. This is why I like the local speakers. Everything he tells you is real. Don't listen to the devil telling you, oh, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. Because that's what most people do here, is they listen to the negative. Just have faith. Have faith. I'm telling you, have faith that what he's going to say is true, and just go out and do it, even if you don't understand exactly how. Okay, have faith and implement. This is the big secret. Brian Tracy was up there last night in Tampa. Who was at Brian Tracy last night? Yeah, Brian Tracy was up there, and he said, most people, 97%, don't do anything. That's the tragedy of America. People never take action, and they're subservient in their whole life, and then they reach 65 and they're broke. Okay, tonight you're going to have an opportunity to do what the people did, what Mark talked about 3 years ago. You're going to see a person who just did 9 deals last month. Just do what he says. Just do it. Okay? Don't question it. Do it. And then report back to me when you have a success story. Because I love hearing positive things. Okay? So that being said, I suspect you have one of the best presentations ever. Let's give a warm TBREIA round of applause for Corey Diamond.
I have no idea how in the world he thinks I'm going to live up to that. The best presentation ever, all people said.
out of here. Yeah, exactly. My name is Corey Donahue. It's really unusual for me to stand up in front of a group of people and talk and I not know them all, so you have to bear with me a little bit. I'm not a professional speaker. But one thing that I do want to do is say thank you to Dan for all the help that he's given to me and the opportunity to be up here. So if we can give Dan a round of applause. He's been very instrumental as I've made the transition, or making the transition from doing a few small deals to thinking a much bigger picture and other things that you can accomplish. So I appreciate you guys being here to listen tonight. I know this has been a crazy week with all the stuff going on. We have our Monday night meeting, and then Jack Miller, which is one of my idols in this business, was Tuesday night, and Tracy last night, and so anyway, I appreciate you guys being here tonight. What Dan said is true. I'm just an investor that likes to do deals, and I like to help people whenever I can. So what I'm going to do tonight is walk you guys through the beginning of, well, I'll just do it. I have slides for this. If you want to contact me via email, there's my email address. It's cdonahue@helpfulhousebuyers.com. My phone number, if you need to call me, and I can't always promise I'll pick up because I get pretty busy, but I'll do my best, and I'll definitely make an effort to call you back. My phone number is 813-689-3900. So anyway, you can contact me anytime if you need help with any deals. So who am I? I'm a real estate entrepreneur. That's the best way to define myself. I do all kinds of creative deals, and like Dan said, I did 9 transactions last month. I very much enjoy doing creative things, and I've been very, very, very privileged in my short time in this business to have the best mentors that exist in the country, and I really mean that. And Andy Phillips has become my very good friend, and has welcomed me.
We love you, Andy.
In this business. And if you don't know Andy, he's right over here in the blue shirt. Raise your hand, Andy. Wave. You need to know who he is, because he has got a heart of gold, and he likes to help people. And he has walked me through, step by step, many transactions, and it's just become a blast to learn how to do all kinds of crazy things. A couple things you need to know about me. I started this business with really, really bad credit, and that was because I was in the IT world, and my business started to, I had an IT firm that started to slack off. So when that happened, it made it tough to keep everything going, young kids and the whole thing. So I haven't ever used a bank to do a transaction, and I've done well over 100 now. And as well as I have not, what that's done is forced me to be very creative, because I couldn't go to the bank and borrow money. And I started with some cash, because back in the boom, when it was really easy, a little bit before the boom actually when I started, I had a bunch of equity in a house that I owned, so I sold it and started with a little bit of cash, but that was actually a detriment to my learning, because I went out and spent the cash stupidly. So if you're here tonight and you're starting or you're in the middle of your career, and you don't have any money, that's okay, because this is the best time in the world to be getting started or to be doing transactions if you don't have any money, because the deals are out there. So we're going to go through a few of the things that I've done recently. The other thing is I'm very interactive. I want you to raise your hand, ask questions and all that, because I'm not a pro speaker, so I get really boring. So just keep up with me. If you have any questions at all, please jump in, raise your hand. We'll run down any rabbit trails we need to run down until I feel like we're not giving benefit to the whole group. So I've got an acquisitions company, recently opened an office with some people that actually are working in the office. I've kind of went from a one-man band to needing, to the volume that we're doing, needing some help. So, and we also have a property management company, myself with Debbie Whitaker. So we kind of do the full spectrum of the investment gamut. So done a lot of different stuff. I'm not an attorney or CPA. There are very good ones in the room tonight, so ask them before you do anything that I tell you what to do, if you should do it or not. What I want to do tonight is teach you how to increase your earning ability. How many remember Brian Tracy again? He said that one of the most important things that you can do in life is to increase your earning ability, and that's one thing I want to help you guys do tonight is how do you increase your ability to make money. And one of the ways you do that, especially in real estate, is to learn as many different ways to go at a transaction as possible. So there's some very convoluted and fun, crazy ways you can go at a real estate transaction. We're going to go through a few of those in case study form tonight. So, a couple things I always like to talk about. I've spoken a few times, and I've got some advice I always like to give out, so bear with me, and I think it's pretty good stuff. So, if you're in this game to get rich overnight, just stop, because it's not going to happen. Few people do, and you will get really, really rich in this business if you stick with it, and that's the key, is sticking with it. But if you're in it to get rich quick, just get that out of your mind, because it's not going to happen. Write down your goals. You always make money when you buy. Now, who wants to tell me how you would make money when you buy in a market like this when nobody knows what the price is? What do you buy for?
As low as you can get it for.
Close. He said as low as you can get it for. Owner financing, but what I'm getting at is, how do you make money in this business? You make it in cash flow. Okay? So cash flow is where it's at. Make money in cash flow and never, ever, ever lose money in a transaction. And you won't if you buy for cash flow all the time. Make sense? Okay. One thing that Andy's taught me is always put money away and invest at a compound interest. So most people will go make $50,000 in a transaction and run out and buy something shiny and red and goes honk honk. Don't do that. Be disciplined enough. And the only way you're going to get anywhere financially is to have the discipline to take your money and reinvest it, not waste it on toys. So if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. Spend 1 hour every day investing in your education. Brian Tracy talked a lot about that last night, and that the most successful people in the world spend several hours every day working on themselves. How do you do that? If you work, most of us probably, how many have a 9 to 5? Should I ask that? Raise your hand, I can't tell, it's okay. You're in a better spot than most. How many are full-time real estate investors? Okay, excellent, good. So most of the stuff that I'm talking about now is not new to you guys. But do whatever you can, go to Automobile University and listen to books and tapes every day and further your education. Let's see. One of the things that Andy has always told me is, if you do what everyone else won't do for 5 years, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what everyone else can. And you've got, what were you telling me the other day, Andy? What's that whole thing about sacrifice, or what was it?
Financial discipline.
Well, we'll go, that's right. Anyway, control your work, don't let your work control you. That's the biggest struggle that I had, because I get involved in my work and it takes over my life. You've got to perform a specific set of actions to produce specific results. Big one for me is weed out everything in your life that keeps you from thriving. Brian Tracy, again, I know I keep referring to it, but I've read a lot of his stuff and learned a lot from him over the years. Talked about how the best people in the world, the wealthiest people in the world, look at themselves not in terms of their income, not in terms of what they make a week or what they make a month or what they make a year, but what they make an hour. Because when you think about that and you realize that if you're going to spend an hour watching TV and you take your income and you divide it out by how many hours you work in a year, and you're a $50 an hour guy or a $100 an hour guy, or hopefully in this business you're a $200 or $300 an hour guy, you realize you just wasted $200 to $300 by watching TV or letting something else run away with your time, or mowing your grass, or doing all those things that take up our time but aren't necessarily useful in furthering our lives as our investment careers and in our financial lives. So something to think about. We get whatever we focus on. Don't confuse activity with accomplishments. How many of you have done that? You just sit there all day looking at email, chatting around the water cooler, and confusing that. Always be adding to your toolbox to get back to the education. Know where you're going. If you don't, you'll end up somewhere else. That focus that you need. Think big picture. Get up every time you get knocked down. One of my deals, this statement means a lot to me, because in 2006 I was doing rehab constantly. And I had a partner who was pretty well off financially. So we were doing 5 or 6 rehabs all the time. Just running through them. Well, in July of 2006, he decided that he wanted to move to Ohio to be close to his family, and walked away from my company and left me with $32,000 a month in negative cash flow. How many of you think that hurt? Hurt pretty bad. But it knocked me down pretty good. I mean, I was doing well, so I was able to battle through with the help of my friends, and you know, got through it and came out okay. But I know a lot of people that would have quit, and a lot of people that would have let. I do a lot of work with private investors, and a lot of people I know that would have walked away from those investors and just let them loose. And I pat myself on the back, and not in an arrogant way, but I found myself laying on the ground in my room, looking up at the ceiling, going, "What am I going to do?" And I got up from laying down, and I took action, and I went out and made something happen, and got through it. And not one of my investors has lost a penny, nor did I miss any payments. So. Something to remember, if you get in this business and you work hard at this business like I do, and you do very well, there's going to be times where you're going to get knocked on your butt even when you didn't do anything intentionally wrong. When you have great intentions, you go out and you do the right thing, sometimes things are going to go bad. So you've got to get up off, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and take action to get out of from where you are. Stop digging, start looking up, and start climbing. Okay, so on to the stuff you guys are here to hear about. Thanks for letting me be on my soapbox for a couple minutes. Marketing ideas. I'm going to run through a few marketing ideas that I currently do, and the deals that have come out of those marketing ideas. And then I'll walk you through the deal and how it was structured and how I put it all together. And I don't know if I'll get through the whole thing because hopefully you guys will have a lot of questions because some of them get pretty fun and creative. So the first one is bandit signs. How many of you guys use bandit signs? How many use them now? Okay, give me some feedback. What are you finding with your bandit signs now? Tell me what kind of bandit signs you're using, for buyers or sellers?
Buyers.
Buyers, okay. So you're looking for buyers with bandit signs. How do you do that? What did your bandit sign look like? Give me some ideas.
Must sell.
Okay.
Price. I'm focused on the round robin auction process.
Okay, so we got round robin auction process, must sell now. What else? Give me some ideas. What are you using for bandit signs?
I used a lease option.
Okay, so you're looking for a tenant.
Yeah,
right.
A tenant with the option.
Has some money, yeah, okay. How much down, how much a month kind of thing, right? Okay. Sure.
I have one that I put out on the street corner, wanted 321 in good neighborhood and good condition.
Okay, so Cheryl's looking for a seller, wanted 321, good condition, so she's trying to get people to call her with deals. The bandit sign that I use right now, I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's okay. The bandit sign that I use right now, all it says is 3-2, $850 a month, and a phone number. Now, I'm not trying to rent a house. I'm trying to sell a house. Okay, but terms is what sells your house. So if you're using bandit signs, that may be an idea of a twist you can put on it. Nobody's that I've met is doing this yet, but it works very well. Okay. So I'll go into a little more detail on that in a minute. I also look for sale by owners and for rent signs.
Art,
Yes, sir.
who calls you off of that sign, buyers or renters?
Well, let me get to, I've got a slide for it. Let me get to that, and I'll go through the whole detail, and I'll go through a deal that we did. Like I said, I got to look up myself, Mark. I appreciate the question. We send some direct mailing and a bunch of different types of that, so we'll get into some of that. Sorry, I'm not a PowerPoint expert either. What's that? I'm not a PowerPoint expert. I messed up on number 4. There's only 6, not 7. I cut one out. That's why I skipped right. All of these were okay. 3 is direct mail. You don't have to count necessarily from 1 to 10 to be in this business. So, most of my business comes from referrals. To be honest with you, a lot of the transactions that I do come from referrals, from being in groups like this and talking to people about what I do out on the street, when I get my hair cut, whatever. So keep that in mind. Word of mouth is still the best marketing that there is. Okay. We do a bunch of stuff off the MLS. Who would think, what kind of business are we doing off the MLS right now? REOs. Yeah, definitely REOs. I kind of stay a little bit away from short sales because they take a lot of time. And I don't mess a lot with those. They're not saying they're not great, and if that's your niche, then that's awesome. It's just not been one that has worked for my business model. So MLS, primarily, we're doing REO stuff. And then my favorite place to do business is with wholesale. I wholesale property. 8 of the 9 transactions I did last month were wholesale deals. And I love doing business with other wholesalers in the area. And I love developing relationships with those guys because they bring in really good deals that I don't have to go look for. You know, it's okay if they want to make $3 or $5 grand on the deal, if it's a good enough deal. So don't forget those guys. But we'll go through some of the transactions that I've done with. Okay, so the bandit sign thing. This is Amanda. She's a young married girl. Her husband's name is Mike. They just had a baby. We were marketing for buyers with our bandit sign. The bandit sign said 3 bedroom, 2 bath, $850 a month, and my phone number. They called, and what you say when you pick up the phone in that situation, of course they think they're calling about a rental house and they want to be a renter. So what I said to them is, if I can get you that house for about $850 a month, you know, would you be happy to be an owner instead of a tenant? Well, you're going to get probably about 75% that call say yes. They'd rather own for the same money as they can rent. Okay? So with FHA financing, and when Amanda and I bought theirs, this was actually in September, before when 100% financing was available with down payment assistance. Okay? So we put them into a house. Their payment was $893 a month. We sold the house. They got into a house that they could get real close to their rent. Now, this is something that everybody, you know, I get a lot of people that come to me all the time and want to know, okay, what do I do to get started? How do I make some money quick? That kind of stuff. This is a really good way to do that because you don't have to have the house and you don't have to spend a lot of money. Yeah, you put the bandit sign out, you get, you know, 50, 60, you'll probably get 50, 60 calls in a week on a sign like that. What you tell them is, look, this is a government program for 97% now, 97% financing. I can get your payment real close to what it would be to what I had on my sign. And you can make the sign exact. If you want to do the numbers, pick a $103,000 house that you found in the neighborhood, whatever it is, and do your numbers out. So give them the exact payment and advertise that on the sign. Well, how many of us know people that are realtors? Everybody should know a realtor if you're in this business. I mean, you probably run into 30 or 40 of them a week if you're out hustling and looking. So call one of your realtor friends, tell them you have a buyer, and ask them if they'd like to work with you and help you. And if you bring the buyers, they'd be willing to share some commission with you. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I did is I called my very good friend Bill, and I said, hey, I've got these buyers. They are looking for a house. They're not interested in the house that I have. And can you go show them a house? Can you help them buy a house? So they bought a house. Got their payment, like I said, $893 a month. Bill made $2,400, and he split it with them. So, you know, I had a house that I was trying to sell, that I was advertising for in that manner, advertising the terms. They didn't like my house, but he was able to put him in another house. And that dead lead that most people would find as a dead lead, most people are like, oh, they didn't want my house, no big deal, whatever. Just passed by, turned into $1,200 in my pocket. It's not a bad week, right? I mean, $1,200, not too bad.
Not bad at all.
Okay. Just an easy way if you don't have a lot going on. As far as you don't know how to find a deal, but you can go out and you can take phone calls. You can make some pretty good money just doing this stuff. And it's, you know, you're not going to make $100,000 a year doing this, but it'll help especially if you're working full time. You can do this on the weekends. So, any questions on that at all? Yes, ma'am.
Did you actually have a property? I mean,
I had a house. Yeah, I had a house for about $103 grand
so
that I was trying to sell it for.
Your property.
Correct. And I showed them the house.
Okay.
Met with them. That's how I built a rapport with them. They said, oh, we don't really like this house in this area. It's not really for us. Okay, well, tell me, you know, what area would you like? So all of us have gone out, if you're in this business long enough anyway, if you've got rental properties or if you've got houses to sell, you've all met a seller, or I'm sorry, a potential buyer at the house, right? Well, if they say, oh, we don't really like this house, and they move on, you just lost yourself a potential lead that you may be able to monetize by passing them to a friend if you're not a realtor. If you are a realtor, then, you know, obviously you should know this game and you found a buyer. But something that I've done that I don't see a lot of investors doing, and I'm not a realtor. I do not have a realtor's license, so I was able to split that. Yes, sir.
Is that a broker or a realtor?
It was a realtor. Yeah.
Do you have to also split with his?
He has it worked out so that he doesn't have a split. He pays a monthly fee with a discount broker like a Charles Rodenberg. Yeah.
Now, this may be a taboo question here because a lot of people don't like the real estate agents.
Right.
no offense to anybody that might be real estate agent in the room, but in a case like that, would it behoove someone that you work with, whether, like say, my wife and myself, one of us getting a license and then handling that ourselves?
Sure. I mean, at that point, you're playing buyer's agent.
Corey, if you don't mind, for the camera, just give a short repeat for each question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
The question was, if you got a husband and wife team that are investors together, should one of them get a license if you're going to do something like this? If you do that, that's fine. But then you're committing yourself to becoming a regular realtor, which is fine. I mean, if you're a realtor, this is a good way to advertise and find buyers right now, because there are plenty of people out there. Yes, ma'am?
Don't do blind signs.
What's that?
You can't do blind signs.
Right, you need to have a house. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
or
why
have
it's
a
better
friend
not
that
to be one.
What's that?
Yeah, that's why it's better not to be a realtor.
Right.
Because people won't call you as often from those signs when they see a realty company sign.
Okay, so Tia's informing me, because again, I'm not a realtor, so I don't know the rules as far as that goes. But if you are a realtor, you cannot put out signs that are blind. You have to have a problem.
Well, that's what whoever had the license, the other person would put out the sign,
Right.
and then you would turn the lead over to.
Sure, and you could do that. You're kind of walking the line there, but again, it's a matter of if you want to, if that's your game and that's how you want to do it, is just making commissions that way, sure. But this, to me, this was just another way. I'm trying to move through a house. This is another way to monetize a dead lead. That's what I always look for. If I'm spending money on marketing, which bandit signs can get pretty expensive, I want to figure out a way to monetize as many of those leads as possible. Sure. Okay. So people that help us in the office that are lease-up agents, they are trying to take those people and turn them to buyers if they're not interested in renting the house that we have. Yes, sir.
What's the percentage of people who found out to qualify for that?
It's probably about 5%. I mean, it's not a huge percentage, but there's a lot of other things down the line that you can do to try to monetize that lead. We're looking for tenants first, and then after that, if we can convert them to a buyer, we try to convert them to a buyer. So if they don't like our house, we try to convert them to buyers, and if they don't like the house, if they can't buy, but they're going to be a good tenant, then we'll go on the MLS and find them a good house that they can rent, and still try to monetize that lead. Now that's going to be much smaller in terms of how much money you're going to get for doing that, but you're not wasting money on marketing. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
Now you may be going to cover this a little further down the line. You said that most of your business comes from referrals.
Correct.
Number 2 in the slide, out of some of the ideas that you've thrown out here, what would you say would be bringing in number 2 on your list as far as would be the bandit signs that are your, or what's next on the list after referrals?
The question is I made the statement that referrals were most of my business. He asked what the second one in line for that would be, and I'll get into that, but the second one in line I would say is probably wholesalers. But my business is a little different. Everybody's going to have their different niche that is going to produce differently for what they're trying to do. So my idea here is to stir up as much of your creative juice as I can so that you can plug in different things in your business that you may not be doing now. Yes, ma'am?
So when you marketed to this tenant, and they were coming to you as a tenant, how did you qualify them, or before you sent them to your realtor?
Good question.
Could they even know if they had money or whatever?
Sure. I guess I've made an assumption that. I'm sorry. Repeat the question. I'm sorry. The question is, how did I make sure they were qualified to become a buyer before I wasted my realtor's time to send them over? Okay. Basically, is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I made the assumption that everybody in here that's in the investing world has a friend that they've brought them beside them that is a mortgage broker, a CPA. You've got a mortgage broker, you've got a CPA, you've got a realtor, and all those different things as part of your team. A title agent, that kind of stuff. So I called my very good friend that's a mortgage broker, and I said, hey, I've got these folks, they'd like to become buyers instead of tenants. Can you pre-qualify them? And then I put the two together, he takes care of all that. Then I put him with the realtor, and at that point I'm out of the transaction. Yeah, I built the rapport quickly, and then I build the rapport with the mortgage broker for them, then I build the rapport with the realtor for them.
But somebody who's coming into the market at $850, the minute they start talking to you at first and last in security or first in security, what kind of feedback would you get from them? You know, because their mind, yes, everyone would like to be an owner. I would say most people would. And then, so how do you know? I mean, like, are you saying to them, well, it's not going to cost you that much? Are you promoting that government program first?
The question is, how do you convert them from thinking like a tenant to thinking like an owner?
And with the money. You know?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely going to have first month and security anyway, and sometimes last month, depending on credit. At least that's how we do it. So typically, if they have $3,000 down, there's definitely very legal ways to get them the extra money that they need. Not from me, but if they can borrow it from a family member as a gift. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay. Then you get them as a lease option buyer, they're a tenant for a while, then you work on doing something else to get them in the house. But in this scenario, I just passed the lead right to Gustavo, my mortgage broker, and he said, yeah, can you get it done? They had the money, and I asked those questions, up front. I talked to him, hey, it's a government program, meaning it's an FHA program. For those of you who don't realize, if you're a first-time home buyer right now, you get up to a $7,500 tax credit for buying a home. Okay, so that's a big selling point to someone who doesn't have a lot of money, because the typical person makes 40 to 60 grand a year combined to income that wants to buy a house. That's going to translate to $4,000 or $5,000 directly in their pocket when they file their taxes the next year. So even if they had to put money out of their pocket to put down on the house, the credit that they're going to get back for that goes into their pocket. So though it's really a nothing down deal over a 3 or 4 month time frame.
Do you have any idea as to how long that program is supposed to be active? How long they're going to be offering that $7,500 tax credit?
That's a good question.
1 year.
I think it's a 1 year, right?
Unless they extend.
Okay, thank you. June of 09.
And they will extend.
It's also a temporary credit, isn't it?
It is. It does have to be repaid, but it's repaid at 0 interest over 15 years. So, I mean, it's basically nothing. Okay. Any other questions on that real quick before I move on to the next thing? Helpful? Okay. All right, so for sale by owner and for rent signs, I'm sure we've all driven neighborhoods and we've all looked at those. This is nothing new, hopefully, to anybody. But right now, it's even better than it was 3 or 4 years ago, because the people that have their homes up for sale, or a lot of the ones that have their homes up for rent that are trying to do it themselves, really have a need to move that property. Whereas a couple of years ago, obviously, they could throw it up in MLS and it'd be gone. So they're open to whatever they need to do to create a deal, have you create a deal for them to get out of the property. So this one is in Brandon. When I created this slide, I thought I had a picture, but I don't. It's in a good neighborhood in Brandon, over close to where we are. 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. The poor lady, her husband passed away. Her kids were grown, so she couldn't afford the house anymore. So I was driving through one of the neighborhoods that I drive regularly looking for deals, called her sign, and she said, I really have to get out of this house. I'm about a month behind on my mortgage. Can you help me, kind of thing. And I was able to buy it subject to the existing financing. Does everybody understand what that term means? Okay.
Was there any equity in the house?
Yes. Yeah, there was about, it was about 65 cents on the dollar. So, and those are fewer and far between, but the deal is the more you throw at the wall, the more it's going to stick. Okay? So, it was a good deal, and the cash flows, the payment's $808 a month on that house, and it's running for $1095. So, it does okay after expenses, close to a break even, but good.
How did you approach the homeowner as far as following up?
Typically what I'll do, and it's funny you asked that, I've had people in my office 4 or 5 times this week who I told to go out and do this and then come to the office and sit and talk, and I would walk them through the phone call. But basically what I did is, I just call them and I say, hey, how you doing? My name's Corey, I'm an investor, and I saw you're trying to sell your house. Tell me a little bit about the house. And one of the big things that I learned when I was starting was, don't try to hide the fact that you're an investor. Always tell people that right up front. Because if you hide it, then they're gonna distrust you, because they're gonna find out right away. They're gonna find out quickly that you're not moving in. So if they distrust you, your credibility is gone, and you're probably not gonna have a deal. So I always just tell them up front what I am, what I'm trying to accomplish, and then I ask them, tell me a little about your house, why you're trying to sell it. And the biggest thing in any transaction that you're doing, anytime you're trying to buy a house, is you got to find the pain point. What is their reason that they really have to be motivated to sell? I mean, you don't waste your time if you don't think the person's motivated. You can find that out in your first 3 sentences. When you tell them you're an investor, if they're not motivated, they're basically going to cut you off, which is fine. And you don't have to waste your time. That's another reason why I tell them up front that I'm an investor. So once you got to that point, and I guess to elaborate a little bit, you're looking for how did I get them to the point to take it as a subject to?
Yes.
I found out that her pain point was she couldn't make her payments anymore, and she wanted to be out of the house because it was a difficult memory for her. Okay? So then I told her, look, in this market, things are really tough. Okay? And I have to make money in order to buy your house. So I can't pay cash for it, because in this market, I have to pay 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, and that's not fair to you. Okay? And you don't have enough equity, even if it was fair. So I said, what I can do is I can take over your existing payments, and I can give you some money to help you. And she was totally fine with that, because it was a very easy transaction, and I came across as a very trustworthy individual that was going to make her payments. Is that
Yes.
what you're looking for?
Yes.
And if you have questions like from the seller as to how do I know you're going to make my payments and that kind of stuff, you can always, the internet, everything's paid on the internet these days. So you could always pay a few payments in advance and make sure they have internet access so they can check on whether the payment history has been made and all that kind of stuff. So, yes, sir.
Gary, she stayed on the mortgage, right?
What's that? She stays on the mortgage.
Stays
Correct.
on the mortgage.
She stays on the mortgage.
You're not assuming it.
Not assuming it, no, sir.
How much was the house? How much did you for?
This one? The value when I bought it was probably about 180 to 185,000. We took over an 89,000 first, and then I brought a private lender in to get her some money to move and to do some repairs to the house. So we ended up in it for just under 120.
And you've got that rented out.
Correct. So it's not a home run deal, but it's a deal that I'll harvest in 10 or 15 years.
With the lease that you use, do you usually take care of the maintenance on the house, or do you usually have the tenant take care of that?
The question is, with the lease that we use, do we let the tenant take care of the maintenance, or do we take care of the maintenance? We have a clause in our lease that up to $200 the tenant's responsible for. Everything above that we'll take care of. So, yes, ma'am.
Now, do you do that for straight tenants?
Yes.
Even just?
Yeah, if it's a lease option tenant, I don't do maintenance.
No,
I mean,
so
I want to know about it.
a straight tenant, no
Yeah,
tenant
straight tenant, they got to pay $200.
of everything.
Yeah, that's because, yes, it's us.
What kind of financing arrangements did you make on the second part money?
The question is, what kind of financing arrangements did I have in the second? Well, actually, it was just a straight loan for 12%. Payments of, I think they're $350 a month.
So that's an amortizing loan?
No, that's interest only. Yeah. So that's,
Yes, my question.
okay. And that's not overly creative. The only creative part of that transaction was that I took over her finance.
I have a question. What kind of paperwork do you do to protect yourself if she wasn't this nice a lady and somebody come back and says, well, I want my property back?
The question is, what kind of paperwork do you use to protect yourself if you get someone that you bought their house subject to, and they come to you and say, hey, I want my house back? Well, they can't do that because they've sold the house. So the paperwork is the deed.
So you do a new deed, then you're
Oh,
not
absolutely.
assuming the mortgage?
Correct. Yeah, it goes right through a title company. Yeah, I don't do any tabletop closings or anything like that. Goes to a title company. Everything's held in escrow like normal. Title insurance is issued. New warranty deed, the whole thing.
How do you have to contact the mortgage company, let them know that you're taking over the payment of the mortgage?
The question is, do you have to contact the insurance company and the mortgage company and let them know you're taking over the mortgage? The answer is no. You absolutely don't do that. If you do, then they want you to file the paperwork and assume it. And if you're doing that, why? There's no point buying the house. You don't have enough equity to pay cash. So
I didn't know if you had any, contact with the mortgage company to let them know that somebody. I mean, how do you tell them that you're a management company and you're making the payments now for the lady, or?
The way that you're going to move it into a land trust.
Right.
Okay, for sure. And what Mark was saying earlier about land trust is absolutely true. Every real estate transaction you do, Leslie is my CPA, and she's excellent. And I've learned from her that every real estate transaction you do should be in a land trust. So when you move the property to a land trust, you do it at closing, at purchase. You pay your doc stamps, pay all the fees you're supposed to pay to the county. And and in this day and age, I can tell you the mortgage companies aren't really going to balk at anything, because there is an acceleration in her mortgage, a due on sale clause, but yeah, every mortgage has it. But the bottom line is you move it to a land trust, you send them a letter notifying them that the property is now in a trust, and it doesn't really, they don't care where your payments are coming from.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I wanted to make sure that's how you were handling it.
Yeah, I mean, you just send them a letter, the property's now in trust, change your, the address is now this, and you update the insurance information. Yes, sir.
And I guess you have the insurance updated so that the loss paid when you buy insurance of the
Correct.
trust, that it shows that.
Yeah. On the insurance side, you're gonna, most of the time it's an owner occupier you're buying the home from, or some of the time. So you're going to change your insurance from owner occ insurance to renter's landlord insurance. So when you do that, you make yourself, you still need to name the person on the mortgage as additionally insured, so they don't send up any red flags to the mortgage company. But you want to be the primary, the trustee actually wants them to be the primary. Then it's your choice whether you.
Well, the mortgage company needs to be the loss paid.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, the mortgage company's got to be on there. Yeah. So does the person who's the mortgage holder.
That'll raise a flag. Yeah.
Right, and the trustee needs to be named. Yeah, 3 parties at that point. Mark.
You go through the 2 steps of having the trust beneficiary be the borrower, and then have them assign you or your entity the interest in the beneficial interest of the trust.
The question is, there's a little bit of trick that some people used to do, that when you deed the property into trust, then you buy the beneficial interest, which, yeah, you could do that later, which then walks right around any kind of a bunch of fees and that kind of stuff. But I've never done it that way, and I don't recommend doing it that way. They've just passed a new Florida statute that if you do that, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. If I'm over anybody's head right now, and that's fine, ask the question. Go ahead, Seth.
What are your thoughts on the risk parameters, given the fact that it was an elderly woman who was 1 month behind on her mortgage, and you took it subject to, given the current legislation that are on the books regarding homestead properties?
Sylvester's question is, what do you think the liability is, and what kind of risk factor are you taking on when you take over someone who's behind on their mortgage? There's definitely concerns there, more so now than there ever has been. And I would say be careful. I mean, don't take over anything that you even come close to having a risk of having problems with. I don't like necessarily doing a lot of subject to deals right now because of the climate. Not that there's anything wrong with it. You just have to know the person that you're dealing with. But in terms of risk factor, it's still there. I mean, if she wanted to go back and claim I stole her property and go through a whole bunch of stuff, she could probably do that. But I don't see any risk from just knowing the lady and getting to know her. She was very happy that the transaction went the way it did. She's very happy to have her credit repaired now because her mortgage is current and it's being paid. So, there's definitely cautions around subject to, though, for sure. I mean, I probably know where you're going with that question, but definitely new rules for subject to. If there's a list tenants filed, you can't do it. It's illegal to buy a property and leave the existing mortgage in place. You have to pay it off. So that went into effect October 1. You definitely cannot buy a property subject to. The other challenges you have with leaving the financing in place are the servicer changes all the time. So if you don't get notified, you end up sending your payment to Countrywide, and Saxon's now servicing it, then you end up missing payments and tracking all that down. And, the subject to deals need to be very cherry, and they need to be worth the hassle that's involved, because there's potential there for having a difficult time when you buy something subject to and leave somebody else's financing in place.
Same a couple months in advance, just in case that.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't on this, but if it makes the seller comfortable,
I mean,
I'm sorry. The question was, do you put a couple of months of payments in advance in escrow, or go ahead and pay it to the mortgage company if you take something over subject to? And my answer is, go ahead, Ashley.
Well, I meant specifically because of the servicing aspect of that changing.
Okay, because there's servicers that change all the time, the question is, do you always have a couple months ahead so that if something happens, you overlap and you're safe? I haven't typically. Go ahead, Mark.
Last time I did that, it was Provident, and they applied the entire extra payment to the principal balance, and I still had to make my next month payment right on time.
Correct. Yeah, that's the challenge. And then you get issues where they'll put payments in suspense accounts, like where the payment changed by a couple of dollars, the escrow amounts change and that kind of stuff, and you paid $1,308 and the payment's now $1,311.33. Well, you didn't make the whole payment, so they stick it in suspense, and now your payment's not made, and you have to sort all that stuff out. So, you got to get powers of attorney, and you need to do a bunch of other different things to make that to make the transaction work. Go ahead.
What if the lady dies?
Good question. The mortgage isn't going to go away if she dies. I haven't run into that, so you got me there. Andy, give me an answer. Andy's always my go-to guy. What happens if the lady dies?
Well, nothing happens. Put life insurance on.
Yeah, life insurance on the way out.
Okay. That's why I love him. Right. I don't think the mortgage company is going to do anything as long as the payments are being made, which would be my answer. Jay, way in the back. Jay's got a good answer for it.
1965, when I started buying business, we always put life insurance policies on other people's property.
Jay's answer was always put life insurance policy on the owner if you're going to take your property subject to.
Sure.
That way, if something happens, it gets paid off.
You win.
You win. Yeah. There's plenty of fun games you can play with life insurance.
Just don't back over any of the people that have got life insurance policies.
Don't call anybody and have them taken out either.
What if the lady is over 72?
What if the lady is over 72? Yeah, you probably can't get life insurance on.
About mortgage insurance is what you're buying. Mortgage insurance.
Mortgage insurance you get on just about anybody, as long as they get a mirror.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I want to move past subject 2, and anytime you have questions about that, you can see me. But very low percentage of your deals will probably become that way right now, because most people are over leveraged anyway, and it's not even an issue. Most people are going to call in your market anyway. But okay, so direct mail. There's 3 different types that I use. There's a form letter. A form letter is a typed letter that's on your computer. You mail merge or cut and paste or whatever to put your address in there that you're sending it to and that kind of stuff. There's a yellow letter, which I'll show you what that looks like. It's basically, who's got a legal pad? It's a legal pad piece of paper that you write a letter on, fold it up and mail it out. And then there's postcards. Those are the 3 best forms. I've done a ton of direct mail, and those are the 3 best. So form letters, yes sir, Mac.
Well, when you get the postcard, no.
Okay. Form letters. I've got a form letter. I got it from Kathy Kennerbrook's class, but you can write your own. It's not a big deal. Basically, what you want to get across is the fact that you're an investor and you like to buy their house. The biggest thing to remember with any letter, when you're going to send it out, it always needs to be self-addressed, hand-addressed with a big gaudy stamp, preferably on an envelope that's not a business-size envelope. Why would you do that? It's open. Yeah, I'd say 95% of my letters get open. I mean, who doesn't get a letter in the mail that's handwritten to them that they open? So, form letters and a yellow letter. Here's what my yellow letter says, and I got this from a guy named Walter Wolford who buys. He's bought and sold over 100 houses a year for 10 years straight. So he probably knows what he's doing. He probably knows how to find some houses. So he's also a brilliant speaker and a brilliant marketer. So anyway, that's what my form letter says. Dear whoever, my name is Corey. My wife's name is Ashley. Why would I tell him my wife's name? To build rapport very quickly. If I'm willing to share personal information, it just sounds nice and homey and rapport. We want to buy your house on whatever street or at whatever specific address. Please call me and your phone number. That's it. Miss Leslie.
Corey, if you don't have a husband, do you make one up?
So my dog's name is Loverboy, and you put him up there, and you know. Use your dog, use your cat, whatever. Just whatever you think of to build rapport in your letter quickly. Same deal, hand addressed envelope, big gaudy stamp. Use a letter envelope if you can, can't think, a greeting card letter. Invitation, that works too. Yeah, invitation, greeting card letter, greeting card envelopes probably work the best.
How do you farm for your leads that you want to send them directly off to?
Okay. Two best sources, because there's a million of them. The two best sources for me are neighborhoods that I've driven and I found vacant houses or distressed houses. Write down the address, go on public record, find the owner, send them the letter. It's much easier than trying to spend hours digging through the internet, trying to find a phone number and contact them. The main reason the letter is good is because it gets them to call you, rather than you soliciting them. So that's the first one. The second one is you can target neighborhoods using a list service or using a service called RealQuest, realquest.com. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's a really, for doing high volume, it's almost a must. Give you comps, so it'll give you lists, gives you property information. All right, last one is postcards. And I know these are all a review for you guys, but I'm going to go through deals that I've gotten from doing this marketing because it still works today. The difference in 2 years ago and today is that it needs to be very laser focused. If you're going to spend dollars on marketing today, they need to be laser focused marketing. Specific streets, specific reason to send someone a letter, because if not, you're going to be wasting your money. Because what happens, I know Thad gets a bajillion leads off of WeBuyHouses.com. And those leads that come in, he spends hours and hours and hours, him and the people in the office spend hours and hours and hours running through all these leads that come in, and 90% of them are a waste of time. So you can get your phone to ring off the hook all day long, every day if you want, just doing a postcard campaign. But if you do a postcard campaign and just blanket an area, you're going to be wasting your time because 99.9% of those calls are going to be completely dead. Okay. So that's what my postcard looks like. I've been using that for a few years now. And the home that I live in right now is one that I bought from this postcard. I sent out a postcard. I had a target market in a neighborhood in Riverview that was houses that were all built about 20 years ago. And so why would I pick 20 years ago or more? Because then I figured they had equity. What happened was this lady called me, and she called off of the postcard and said, hey, I have my house, I need to get out of it, I got to move, whatever. The house was actually built in 2005. What I didn't realize is on one of the streets that I targeted, there was a section at the end of the street where the houses were all newer. Well, it happened that she put some money down on the house. So I had a pretty good equity spread. Again, I went in and I took over the existing financing and purchased the house and moved in. So postcards still work, but you need to have them very, very targeted. You don't want to send out 20,000 piecemeal anymore. Go ahead.
Corey, do you use a system on the internet to design and send out the cards?
The question is, do I use a system on the internet to design and send out the cards? The personal answer is no. Do I think you should? Yes. I've never taken the time to create one of those services and go through. You can use USPS, so there's a ton of different ones that'll do the whole shebang for you. I haven't done that, and shame on me. But yeah, I would recommend doing it. I just haven't taken the time to go through and set one up. There's a lot of services online that you can use to just, you upload your mailing list and boom, off they go.
Corey,
yes,
there's one I just started using. It's incredible. It'll automate this. You go www.v8cards.com. You can do 3 for free. Try it out. You can do a whole sequence.
Say it again.
www.v8cards.com.
V8? V with the
like 8-cylinder.
Tomato juice, V8.
Yep.
V8cards.com. Okay, so let's get into a couple of other things. All right, so who are you going to target with direct mail? Expired listings. Now, this is a fun deal that hopefully you guys will really latch into the concepts that we did on this deal. Debbie and I did some marketing. Actually, Debbie did the marketing to expired listings on the MLS. Debbie's a broker, so she went on the MLS, found out expired listings, and did a postcard campaign to expired listings. Gentleman called, said, hey, I got to move. I want to sell my house. So Debbie and I kicked back and forth what we were going to do, how we wanted to make the offer. So finally she came over, we sat at my house, called the guy. But we found out a couple of things. I asked him a few questions. Why are you moving? Why do you want to sell your house? That kind of stuff. What we find out is it's a free and clear house. Okay? So free and clear is good, right? Okay. So he was stuck on the fact that he needed to sell his house here to buy his house in Missouri where he moved to. So what would you say, what kind of offer would you make if you were looking at someone who needed to sell a house here and needed to move to Missouri and they had their house free and clear? Not Sylvester, no. I want to Sylvester's going to do what I did. He's going to say what I did. He's going to blow my presentation. What would a normal offer be? What would you say?
How much do you need?
How much is your house in Missouri going to cost, right? Well, if your house in Missouri is going to cost $70,000, I'll give you $70,000. We'll make it an even swap, right? Well, his house was going to cost about $95,000. This is in a neighborhood called Buffalo Estates in Tampa, where a lot of investors have bought for a long time. It's a very good neighborhood, solid neighborhood for rentals. So what I asked the guy is I said, well, what is your payment going to be on your house that you buy in Missouri? He said it's going to be $780 some odd. I said, okay, so what if I gave you full price for your house, paid you $119 for your house, that's what his asking price was in the MLS. I said, what if I paid you $119 and I paid you $800 a month until it was paid in full? He took the deal. Well, what did I just do? Covered his note, solved his problem, fixed his pain point, and got a zero interest loan. Right? So, finding free and clear houses today is the best way, in my opinion, to build wealth. Because there's a lot out there, believe it or not. Statistically, 25% or so are free and clear. And you're not looking for people, obviously, if you're looking for free and clear houses, that have a financial reason to move. They've got some other reason to move. They want to be close to their kids. They've got a job transfer. They lost their job and are going to move back home close to their family. Whatever the reason is, find the free and clear property. So how do you find the free and clear property? You market to neighborhoods that are owner-occupied neighborhoods that have had people in that typically stay 15 to 20 years. Or you can get a list that just targets people that have had their houses for 20 years or more. So you want to laser focus that marketing, and direct mail marketing to find those leads is the best way that I've found to do that. Rather than humming through public record and finding all the people that have had their houses for a really long time, you can just buy a list and direct mail to those people. And that way, the lead is pre-qualified when they call you. You know there's already a good chance they've got a lot of equity or they're free clear. So what do we do with that deal once we bought it? For $800 a month, free and clear. Or zero interest.
You rent it for more than your payment.
Right? We could rent it. Right. So if I've got an $800 a month payment, even though it's all principal, so it's not really negative cash flow technically, if I have an $800 a month payment, I've got taxes of $1,900 a year, I've got insurance of $700 a year, and in a neighborhood where the house will rent for $895 a month, is that a positive cash flow? Do I like, is cardinal rule number one when you buy, make money when you buy, right? And the way you make flows. So I didn't like the fact that I was